Finally, we can stop guessing and we can start our official countdown to Game of Thrones Season 8 premiere on April 14th, which means that May 19th will be the last ever Sunday that we get a new Game of Thrones episode. Not counting the prequels, of course. But before we let that thought sink in, let's just get excited and talk about this teaser. You're now watching Because Geek. First of all, let me just clarify that this is not actual footage from the show. I like the idea that it could be a vision from Bran, but the way it was edited lets us know that it's just a promotional teaser, especially since they have given us the same type of teaser for previous seasons, like The Long Walk before Season 7. And before we dive into this, let's remember that teasers are only meant to remind us of what we already know, set the mood for the upcoming season, and increase the hype with a cool audio and visual experience. They're not really meant to have hidden clues in them. Trust me, I used to think this, but I've learned from my mistakes. We have seen dead characters in teasers before, and it didn't mean that they were going to die. We have seen things like Cersei breathing out cold air, and it didn't mean that she was going to become the Night Queen. So remaining a bit skeptical when it comes to teasers is good. But it does not mean that we can't discuss ideas that unintentionally line up with the teaser. So we will do that later. But first, let's just get the obvious things out of the way and talk about the 3 clear themes that this teaser is trying to convey. 1. Jon's true parentage. 2. The Starks united as a pack. 3. Death is coming, both figuratively and literally. This teaser is trying to tell us that these 3 things are going to be very important in Season 8. The first theme, Jon's true parentage, is clear from the very beginning of the teaser, when Jon walks by Lyanna's statue and we hear her say, "You have to protect him," which is the line that she said to Ned right after she had given birth to Aegon, also known as Jon. If you guys don't mind, I'm just gonna call him Jon. But yeah, the next voice we hear is Catelyn's, saying, "All this horror that's come to my family, it's all because I couldn't love a motherless child," which is a line that she said to Talisa and is also about Jon's secret. This is then reinforced a 3rd time with a 3rd line when we hear Ned say, "You are a Stark. You might not have my name, but you have my blood." Then, right after Jon has been established as a Stark by Ned, we see him join Arya and Sansa, creating the second theme of the teaser, which is the Starks united together as a pack. And I will talk about why Bran is missing later, but the 3rd theme comes into the picture immediately after this when the pack of Starks find their own crypt statues, their own graves, a fate that might be coming for them, a fate that they might be able to avoid if they stand together and fight, which is why we see them pull out their swords and get ready. Ready to fight death itself. And when I say death itself, of course I'm talking about the Night King and his army, which we know are approaching because everything is freezing. So yeah, pretty basic, nothing mind-blowing, but it does what a teaser is meant to do. Remind us of what will matter in the upcoming season with some cool audio and visual cues to increase the hype. Now, let's talk about what I know this teaser is not trying to tell us. One of those things is that the pack will not survive, because we see their statues. Like I mentioned earlier, we've seen characters dead in teasers before and they didn't die. I'm not saying that they will all live, but simply that seeing their statues in this teaser has no significance one way or another. It's only meant as a metaphor. And I'm gonna give a shout out to Grey Area here for finding better words than I could to describe it. When death is staring you in the face, you still have to fight it. Literally. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It also shouldn't worry you that Bran is missing. The reason for this could literally be as simple as it being awkward to have him being wheeled around in the crypts, which is what Patrick pointed out here. He also mentioned that patterns of 3s are a lot more naturally pleasing to humans, and I've known this to be a fact for a while as well, so I agree that having 3 Starks was a lot better than 4. Notice how there were also 3 sentences said. But I did want to dive a bit deeper into this because from a story point of view, it does make sense that Bran is missing. There has been a huge gap between Bran and his Stark siblings, ever since he became the Three-Eyed Raven. He's not really a Stark anymore, as in, he's not tied to the Stark rules or customs anymore. We saw proof of this when he was told by Sansa that he should be the Lord of Winterfell over Jon, and Bran said that he can't be that anymore. I came across another good tweet related to this by LML, who said, "I thought it was a hint about Bran's fate being dissolution in the Weirwood net, The weirwood is all the statue and tomb he will need, perhaps, hence no statue. His fate is set apart. Yeah, I really like that, and I agree with it. And even though the absence of Bran was not what the teaser was purposely trying to convey, it's still giving us an opportunity to talk about these important plot points. Now, we also gotta talk about this feather, because there is a bit of confusion going around as to what it means. And I'll clear up right off the bat that it has nothing to do with Bran's absence or Littlefinger, since some people thought it represented his Mockingbird sigil. This feather is simply the feather that Robert placed on Lyanna's statue when he visited the crypts in the first episode. And it's the same feather that we see Sansa pick up in Season 5 when she's lighting the candles, right before she starts talking with Littlefinger about Rhaegar and Lyanna. The feather has always represented Jon's secret, more than anything else. And this was emphasized in the teaser when we see it fall off the statue right as Jon walks by it. After that, the feather simply became a visual cue for the coming cold in the crypt. We had to see something freeze, and the feather was perfect for that. But yeah, now I want to talk about the hidden meanings that I wish this teaser was actually giving us, just because they coincidentally line up so well. And one of my favorites is Catelyn's line and its timing. She talks about not being able to love a motherless child, right as we see Sansa and Arya. And I would love it if this was actually a hint because, as you might remember from one of my past videos, I predicted the possibility for Arya to take care of a child. I wasn't talking about Jon's child in that video, but ever since I've been liking that idea better. Not only for Arya, but for Sansa as well. I think it's very possible that neither Jon nor Dany survive and that their child ends up being raised by Sansa, and potentially Arya as well. But I remain skeptical. Even if that's what ends up happening, I don't think this teaser was trying to hint at that specifically. Oh, and another hidden meaning that I've heard going around is the one about dead bodies rising from the crypts when the Night King comes to Winterfell. If this does happen, I would want them to be fighting against the Night King and not with them. But yeah, the crypts were more than likely used in the teaser because they represent the Stark lineage. And it was clear that the teaser was all about the Starks. The crypts represent their history, which has been forever tied to the words "winter is coming." And that is another clear theme of the teaser. Not to mention that most of the crypt scenes have been used to foreshadow Jon's true parentage, so I don't think the teaser was trying to hint at anything else here. But I do think the crypts will be important in Season 8 because I believe it will either be a place for everyone to hide in the castle, or maybe an escape route out of Winterfell when the castle is under attack. It would also be quite fitting if it was the place where Jon hears the truth. I've actually got a theory on how this might happen in my episode 1 clues video. Other than that, a detail I've seen many asking about is Jon's statue looking older than the other two. Could this mean that Jon will live to an old age while Sansa and Arya die young? I would say again that it is possible, but I doubt that this teaser is trying to hint at it. I really hate shutting down ideas like this, but I've already mentioned our track record trying to find hidden meanings in these teasers, and it's not very good. Besides, I highly doubt that both Arya and Sansa will die. I still think they're a lot more likely to survive than Jon is. Now, moving on from these statues, people have also been looking at Sansa's hair, saying that it's styled similarly to Dany's in this teaser. And I've gotta say, this is one of the least out there hidden meanings. It is a fact that Sansa has constantly been styling her hair like the women around her who influence her. I can't find the clip or the article for it, but I believe the costume designer or the hairdresser once admitted that it was true, and it was done on purpose. So yes, this could definitely be a hint of Sansa being influenced by Dany, which is not very surprising, but it doesn't tell us whether she will like her or not, because Sansa has styled her hair like Cersei before, and we can all agree that there was no love there. Okay, so there is one more meaning that I wish this teaser was hiding, and that is an idea that Sean had on Twitter where he wondered if the statues seemingly being at the end of the crypts could mean the end of the Stark line. And well, whether that was the end of the crypts or not is not important to the argument. But the end of the Stark line is a very interesting topic. Any children that Jon would have would be a Targaryen, not a Stark. And I think we can all agree that Bran will never have any children. So it would be up to Sansa and Arya. But if they married any other lord of a worthy house, that lord's name would take precedence over Stark. So could this really be the end? There might be a way for their Stark name to be passed down. I'm not entirely sure of how these name rules work in Westeros. But putting all of that aside for a second, I think it is very likely for Arya and Sansa to never have children. I don't really need to explain Arya's reasons. You know how she's completely opposed to being a lady. And yes, I know the argument that Lyanna was like her when she was a child and then ended up changing in the end when she grew up. But all I'm saying is that it's just as likely that Arya does not change as it is that she does. And then my argument for Sansa not having children would be tied to her experiences with Ramsay. They might have scarred her badly enough to never be able to be intimate with any other man ever again. So, what I'm trying to say here is that even though there is no way for us to know what will happen, it is very possible that the name Stark will come to an end as we know it. And that is a bit of a grim thought. Anyway, did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments, or check out my other playlists. There's some sleuthing here, and some prediction collabs here. Thank you guys so much for watching, leave a like if you liked it, subscribe for more, click on the bell to get notified, and I will see you in the next one!